After being so hot for so long, the Giants' bats have gone ice cold, and it has them in a significant funk right now. Just how bad has it been? What can they do to get out of it? Is there some hope in the minor leagues? And how far have the Giants fallen in the standings? Next.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily San Francisco Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Giants, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. My name is Ben Kaspick, and on the show, we provide daily episodes Monday through Friday, talking about the San Francisco Giants in a way that's data-driven and rational, but also simple, passionate, and accessible to all. I'm a former contributor for the baseball statistics and analysis websites Beyond the Box Score and Rotographs. I've been podcasting about the Giants since 2015, and I'm a lifelong fan. Thank you for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts, including YouTube. Check us out there. Hit that subscribe button if you're on YouTube. Swing for the fences on Sleeper Picks, and you could win up to 100 times your money. Download the Sleeper app and use promo code LOCKEDON, and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 30 states. Check out Sleeper today. And coming up on today's show, the Giants, I hope you missed this game because you were busy with 4th of July festivities and whatnot, because it was a real... the bats just continued to be very much ice cold. The Giants got shut out. I warned everyone, the Mariners pitcher Logan Gilbert is really good, despite kind of an ERA in the fours that was perhaps a mirage, and that he was better than that, and he was dominant. He threw a complete game shutout, for crying out loud, and the Giants managed just 5 hits. They did have, they had 1 double and then 4 singles, and that was it. No walks. So, yeah, courtesy of Maria Guardado of sfgiants.com, I've got a couple of stats here that she dug up, and what we've got here is that the Giants have scored only 22 runs over their last 9 games. So that's barely just over 2 runs a game. So you're going to have a hard time winning at all if you're, 2.44 runs per game is what the Giants are averaging over their last 9. So it's no surprise that they are, 2-7 in those 9 games. It's kind of a miracle they have 2 wins, to be honest. And this one is crazy. Since June 1st, the Giants are last in the majors with only 35 runs through the first 4 innings. So I don't know how many games that spans, but that's a lot. That's over a month, obviously. So it's probably at least 30 games, probably a little more. And the first 4 innings, that's like half the game, basically. And we're talking like, on average, what is that? Maybe 1 run per game ish through the first 4 innings on average. And, you at the end of the day, you want to be at, close to 5 runs per game on average, 4.5 to 5 runs a game on average. And if you're only getting 1 through the first 4 innings, then you're putting a lot. This has been a consistent thing. And even when they were winning, that's what's crazy, is that since June 1st, their record is going to look really good, just even with the 2-7 in their last 9, because they went, 18-8 in June. And so, they were consistently winning games that had a very similar script and feel, in that they fell behind early, but their pitching kind of kept the score what it was, whether it was 2-0 or 3-1 or 4-2. They just held the line for inning after inning, and the Giants would chip away, and specifically late in the game come back and tie it and take the lead or walk it off or whatever. And so they were winning games like that pretty consistently. And it's, despite the wins, it's not a formula that you would prefer. You'd like to, usually you're going to lose if you're the team that scores if you're not the team that scores first. And so you'd like to be jumping on opposing pitchers early and shutting them down early as well. And so obviously you'll take all the wins that they accumulated. And as we'll discuss later, they're still in a pretty good position. And, that's why the wins in the bank are huge. But as of right now, currently the bats are just really cold. I think that the brutal travel does have something to do with it over these last few days, like in New York and then the last couple days against the Mariners. They're tired and exhausted. And I think finally tonight they're going to have some kind of, because yesterday was a day game, which was brutal, because following up on a night game that was brutal after the travel that they had, and then not being able to have a full day of rest, they got to turn around quickly and play a day game. And I mean, it's one thing for us to tune in at 1:35, but for them, they got to get there way earlier than that and do all their pregame preparations and stuff, and they're exhausted already physically and mentally. And so anyway, finally tonight, because yesterday was a day game and they were able to have the night off last night, and then tonight being a night game, they can sleep in, rest, and then come in the afternoon. So I think that they might be a little bit more normally rested tonight, and then they have an off day tomorrow, and that's huge. And then the Rockies come into town. And so JD Davis said it again in this MLB sfgiants.com Maria Guardado piece after the game yesterday, that he talked about the travel being brutal, and he also said that we really need the break coming up, the All-Star break next week, but also that these games matter and they can't just take them for granted. They need to go out there. I think they're in a pretty good position to potentially avoid the sweep against the Mariners, and then the Rockies come into town. And so, you still have the potential to end this quote unquote first half with a 4-game winning streak or winning 3 out of 4. And so I think that that's important, given that they've been so anemic, especially offensively, as of late. So we could dive into all of the numbers overall in the season. I just want to point out the Giants now are just barely about one tick above league average offensively. And so that's come down quite a bit. They were, about 5 percentage points, 5% above average offensively just a couple weeks ago or a week ago or so. And so they've really fallen, and specifically the power has disappeared. If you look at I just looked at the last 14 days just to kind of give a quick look at it, and they're last in the majors in homers in the last 14 days, and they're last in isolated power. And so, to be reliant on the home run, the home run would be huge it's how they got back into the game on the Sunday night game with a Blake Sable opposite field pinch hit homer, and then 2 Blake Sable homers were the offense in the first game against the Mariners. And so home runs would be nice. They would be great. It's at least a run and maybe 2 or 3 or 4 automatically when you hit them. And so when they disappear completely, you see the result. But they're also not getting on base right now. And so the injuries, the fatigue, sometimes you credit the opponent's pitching. It's all just kind of piling on right now. But that's baseball. You go through streaks. Just a week ago, we were talking about how great and hot this Giants team was. But is there any help in the minor leagues? What can the Giants do about this struggling offense? Because there's the trade deadline, but they also have a minor league system. So is there anyone they can turn to? We will get into it in just a minute. But before we do, this episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Do you want to win 100 times your money on daily fantasy baseball? Sleeper's now offering up to a 100x payout for up to 8 pick contests. Choose as many as 8 players that you like and pick more or less on your favorite baseball stats like home runs, strikeouts, hits, and more. Get your picks right and you could win big. And, if you listen to the show, it potentially could help, because we're always talking about the matchup coming up. And, this is one of those things where platoon splits matter a lot, knowing if someone's going to be pinch hit for or not, knowing how deep a starter might go into a game in terms of racking up strikeouts. All that kind of stuff can be beneficial when you're making these picks, and entries can be made in just 30 seconds or less. It's that easy, and you get safe and fast withdrawals. Use promo code Locked On, and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 30 states. Check out Sleeper today. All right, here we go. I want to discuss, what can the Giants do about their sleeping, slumbering bats? Is there any help in the minor leagues? It's kind of a minor league update on the position player side, which is funny because just a week ago, all the questions, I've got a bunch of mailbag questions left over, and they're all about starting pitching. And now everybody's probably thinking about offense. And so that's baseball. And that's why the trade deadline is this late into the season, because it takes a while for you to really figure out what your team's needs are. And right now they need arguably starting pitching and offense potentially. But is there help in the minors? Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Everydayers, tomorrow we are going to be discussing another baseball game. I think the Giants have a good shot. Tonight, it's going to be Alex Cobb on the mound for the Giants. He and Logan Webb, I think, are their two solid, steady horses of this rotation. And the Mariners, they had to put their original starter on the IL, and it's going to be Tommy Malone starting for them. Left-handed pitcher. I don't know how much length he's going to be able to give them. I don't think he's built up quite like a normal starter, and also he's a guy you should be able to hit a little bit, but it's a lefty, so look out for that right-handed lineup. And the Giants play the Mariners tonight at 6:05 Pacific. You can catch every pitch of the Giants' hometown broadcast with Sirius XM on the SXM app. Search Giants. I really do want to also search Tommy Malone at some point, because I know it was supposed to be another tough right-handed pitcher that the Mariners have. Yeah, Tommy Malone, he's only made one appearance with the Mariners this year. He went 4 2/3, and he pitched well, but he's a guy with a career ERA of 4.59, about 13% worse than the league average in his career. And so Giants need to take advantage. They need to. So anyway, is there help in the minor leagues? I was just kind of scouring the AAA team and the AA team, really just looking for some kind of help. And as I say that, so in AAA, they don't really have anybody who's banging down the door offensively. If you look at who have been the best AAA performers for the Giants offensively, Luis Matos, number 1, with a 163 weighted runs created plus. Mitch Haniger was good when he was on his rehab assignment there. Brett Wisely, I think it's funny, when you acquire a player from outside of your own organization, people kind of sleep on them compared to if this was a guy that was in the system the whole time. If you look at the minor league numbers Brett Wisely was putting up, he hit 301 he's hit 301 in AAA this year. 436 on base percentage with a ridiculous 17% walk rate. I mean, it's not ridiculous, but it's really good. And 522 slugging, 34% above average offensively. So he's deserving of the opportunity he has in the major leagues. And so he kind of has that, what's his name? I'm blanking and blacking out on his name from last year, the left-handed hitter who they traded Prelander Baroa for, and Donovan Walton, right? So they kind of look similar in a way. But anyway, Brett Wisely is going to get some chances. Casey Schmidt started at second yesterday with the right-handed pitcher on the mound, and the defense is really good, and I think it's worth giving that opportunity to Schmidt at least some of the time. But Brett Wisely is probably going to be in that mix against right-handed pitching and is deserving of the opportunity. But beyond that, I mean, there's just Tyler Fitzgerald is a possibility, but he's actually been below the league average offensively. But as I was discussing yesterday, I don't think stolen bases show up in this weighted runs created plus number. And Tyler Fitzgerald is a guy who has been a real threat on the bases. He has 14 steals in AA, has only been caught twice, and has 9 homers. And he started the season in AA where he was just a monster. And so he is a possibility. He's someone who can play short. They've tried him out in center, and so he's moved around. But I don't know. I mean, he's been a little below average offensively in AAA, and so I don't know exactly how that would translate. But he's someone to definitely pay attention to. So I think beyond that, we kind of need to look at the AA roster just to maybe even check in on some guys, because there are some guys worth talking about over there. And specifically, I want to discuss Wade Meckler, because this guy has just been absolutely a monster in AA. He's played 22 games there, just over 100 plate appearances, and check out the slash line. And this is a tough league to hit in, unlike AAA Sacramento. Wade Meckler has hit .398. He's got a .485 on base percentage and a .534 slugging. So the power hasn't been huge, but he just hit a homer yesterday, I believe it was. Was it a walk-off homer or a tying homer? I think it was a walk-off. I forget, but it was a big home run. And compared to the league average there, he's been 84% above league average in AA. And he started the season in high A, where he was 101% above average, and they quickly promoted him to AA, where he's played 22 games versus 20 in high A. And so this guy is totally in line for a promotion to AAA. And somebody asked me on Twitter, and I've had the same thought, like possibly a guy you just maybe promote to the major leagues right now, like just skip AAA altogether, because I don't know what, if he's tearing it up in a tougher place to hit, then he seems like a guy who could be just worth thrusting into the major leagues. He's a left-handed hitter, right-handed thrower who plays outfield. He's played some center, but I think maybe he's kind of fringy in center. But man, can this guy hit, apparently. Really, really impressive performance. He was a 2022 8th round draft pick. And so we're talking last year's draft. And he's just been incredible. And so, I mean, definitely a name to watch for a promotion to AAA and potentially to the major leagues. I'm not sure exactly how you fit in another outfielder with, Blake Sable. I guess Blake Sable could be a bench hitter and backup catcher potentially. I don't know, but definitely a name to watch. And other players, I mean, Marco Luciano is over there. Logan Wyatt has been really good, first baseman. Vaun Brown has been good after some, I think, early season struggles. Strikeout rate of 35%, but overall 23% above league average there. And Marco Luciano, again, just like a little bit with Vaun Brown, Marco Luciano has come around after some struggles to begin the year with a 118 weighted runs created plus. But I don't think he's a candidate to get promoted right now. I think they probably, he's been on a roll, and to get that overall offense above the league average there, strikeout rate was up closer to 40% and is now down to 30.2%, which is still high, but it's much better than what it was. And then the walk rate, a very nice 15.3%. And so he's hit for power, 247, isolated power, 11 homers, again, in a difficult league in which to hit. It's a overall 225 batting average, but then you look at 340 on base, which is a nice number, given the batting average is a little low, and then a 472 slugging, another nice number. And so Luciano's come around, but again, I don't think we're talking any kind of quick promotion here. He is quite young. He's still just 21 years old. But if he keeps this up, he could definitely get to AAA. And Gabe Kapler did say when the season started, or before the season, that we could see Marco Luciano in the major leagues at some point this year. And so I wouldn't rule it out. He's turned his early season struggles around and is a possibility down the road, I suppose. So anyway, coming up in just a minute, I want to give some updates on where the Giants are in the standings and how, despite the struggles that they've had in the last week plus, they're still in an okay position and they have a chance to turn things around in these next 4 games. So we'll get into all of that in just a minute, but first. All right, here we go. I want to just give an update, as usual, on where the Giants are in the standings, where they are in the playoff picture. I'm like scoreboard watching. I'm something's possessed me where it's only July 5th and I'm already kind of in that mode. But the Giants reeling to 4 straight losses stinks. But then you can watch all these other games and kind of root for. I feel like with the new schedule, it's made it easier to have certain teams to root for in every single game. Less kind of, you don't know who you're rooting for. Anyway, thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Everydayers, tomorrow on the show, breaking down the latest with the Giants playing the finale of this series against the Mariners, looking to avoid the sweep. They have the advantage being home, and then on the starting pitching matchup, they definitely have the advantage. And so this is one to take advantage of. Giants play the Mariners tonight at 6:05 Pacific. You can catch every pitch of the Giants' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search Giants. So yes, in the standings, the Giants are 4 games back of the D-backs. Thankfully, the D-backs and the Dodgers both lost yesterday. The Dodgers blowing a 9th inning lead against the Pirates. And so that was a kind of fun one to follow. And the Reds just continue to win, which is a little bit aggravating. They're like 18-4 in their last 22 games or something like that. But they've moved into first place. And the Brewers lost despite a 9th inning comeback of 2 runs. And then they had a chance to win it with just 1 run in the bottom of the 10th with that free runner on second, and they weren't able to get it done, and then they lost in the 11th. So that was big. The Marlins won again, which is also aggravating. The Phillies also won, and so technically right now the Giants are out of a playoff spot, and they're percentage points behind the Phillies. And so it's basically a 3-way tie if we look at like games back, but the Phillies have played 2 fewer games than the Giants, and the Giants went 1-1 in those extra games, and so technically that pulls down their winning percentage. Phillies' winning percentage is .536 and the Giants is .535. But it's kind of a tie. And at the end of the year, you won't have any teams playing fewer games than anyone else, or else they'd have to make it up. But yes, so technically you're kind of not in a playoff spot, and then all these other teams like the Pirates and the Padres are at least 5.5 games back. And so it's really the Marlins, the Dodgers, the Phillies, the Brewers, and the Reds that I'm kind of paying attention to right now. Marlins have pulled 3.5 games ahead of the Giants, and the Dodgers 1.5 games ahead of the Giants. And in the division, like I said, the Giants are 4 games out. But the playoff odds, according to Fangraphs, let's check in on that. The Giants are at 57%, and they were up close to 75% not long ago. And so that is a pretty dramatic fall there. But still, if you were to tell me on July 5th, the Giants are 6 games over 500, and Fangraphs has their playoff odds over 50%, I think I would have taken that, and I think pretty much anybody listening probably would have taken that if you are a fan of this team and you want them to have success. And so if you just got to take the big picture view and say you're still in a better than normal position, like you have a better than 50-50 shot of making the playoffs according to these odds, with still a 16% chance of winning the division. And so if I look across the league, like what's unfortunate is that the Phillies have now moved ahead of the Giants in these playoff odds. What's crazy is that all these teams are still being outscored. Well, the Phillies, no, they're now with a positive run differential, but the Marlins are still negative. The Reds and Brewers, negative run differentials. And the Padres have overtaken the Giants in run differential, and so look out for them. They've won 2 in a row against the Angels. They beat Shohei Ohtani yesterday, so they're not a team. I mean, they're a team that can definitely get hot, and so. But the beauty is you've overtaken them by 6 games, and so even if they get hot, they have an uphill climb. So anyway, I think the Giants, though, are in position in these next 4 games to end the first half more on a high note, and then they start the second half with yet another difficult, long road trip. Difficult in a travel sense, in a difficulty of the opponent sense. We can actually see the Giants' strength of schedule on Fangraphs too. Like, what is the combined winning percentage of the remaining teams that the Giants have to play? I don't know if it's their current winning percentage or their projected winning percentage. I think it's current. And the Giants have one of the softer remaining schedules in the league. And so that is beneficial. And it's going to start once the Mariners leave town. And then you're playing the Rockies. Then you've got the All-Star break. And then it's this long road trip where you play the Pirates, who are not a good team and are below 500. And look, all of these are major league teams and they're scrappy. And the Pirates have had success at various times this year. But still, that's an inferior team, both on paper and just in general. Like, it's a team you should be able to take advantage of. Then a 4-game series in Cincinnati. I expect that team to come down to earth a little bit at some point. They're just on this ridiculous roll, and no team can keep that up, let alone a team that has some flaws. The Reds are, again, being outscored on the season. And then the Washington Nationals. So it's tough from a travel perspective. They were supposed to then have an off day before coming home, or like at home after coming home from Washington, D.C. But instead of having an off day, they have this makeup game from a rainout in Detroit. But still, Detroit is another team that you're better than and you can take advantage potentially. And then you play the A's at home, and then you're home a lot starting at that point with the A's series. I won't get too far ahead of myself. Then we get into like end of July and into August, and that's the trade deadline. And so hopefully you take advantage and you prove to this front office that this is a team worth adding to, and then you make some additions. As we've seen in 2021, aggressive additions were made when the team was in a position to win. And Farhan Zaidi has come out and said that they're going to be aggressive in adding to this team. And so it may be a situation where you want to not wait until the trade deadline, given the way the bats are performing right now. But we'll see. We'll just have to wait and see. Anyway, that is all the time we have for today. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Everydayers, tomorrow, Alex Cobb versus Tommy Malone. I'm predicting a win for the Giants. So I will be back telling you if I was right in my prediction, and I hopefully will be. And the Giants play the Mariners tonight at 6:05 Pacific, and you can catch every pitch of the hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search Giants. Once again, my name is Ben Kaspick. Check me out on Twitter at Ben Kaspick, Kaspick. If you like this show, please consider rating it or leaving a review. Helps me out a lot. So thank you in advance, and thanks to everyone who's done so already. Can't wait to be with you again tomorrow. Thanks again for listening. You are now Locked On Giants.